9 after 9 on the East Coast, and time for another episode of ShopTalk. ShopTalk. This is going to be a rough night, I can tell already. It's 9 after 9 on the East Coast, and time for another episode of ShopTalk. I am live on remote from a distant location. No idea why that thing was on the screen like that. I'm Chris from Cycle Magazine. We're actually sitting live tonight at an event with Progressive at Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue in Arkansas. Can't wait to see what this is going to be like, man. So fired up to be here. Joined by my co-host in Colorado, Ken.
What's up, man? Sorry, I'm sporting the purple shirt. Rockies won today. They're going to be in the postseason. It's going to be awesome. I know you care about baseball, not at all, but
well, you know,
I had to do it.
You can't just label me. You know, I care about baseball, not at all.
I know you don't.
It's the American pastime. It's past it. It's the American pastime. Unfortunately, it's just past its time.
Oh.
So we're also joined by the ever lovely and talented Heather Callan back in the office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This is the first time we're doing a triple location show. So hope you guys are digging that.
That's 1, 2, 3 locations
1, 2, 3.
for all you people that didn't know what triple meant.
I think we're in 3 different time zones too, aren't we?
Are.
Yeah.
We are in 3 different time
It's
zones.
7 o'clock here. What time is it? It's 9 o'clock on Heather. Where are you at? It's 8 o'clock where you are, Chris?
Yep. Arkansas. Fayetteville, Arkansas. Yep. This is incredible. I got to tell you, man, when they told me this was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday event, I was like, Thursday? Like, really? If it's not a week-long motorcycle event, you know, how's Thursday going to work? And, man, coming in here this morning, there was just nonstop motorcycle traffic. I'm super fired up about being at this show and seeing something different. And I mean the fact that, like, in the name it says 3 of my favorite things in the world: motorcycles, barbecue, and blues music. Man, it's gonna be a great time down here. So we're super stoked to be here. Progressive has brought us in. We're gonna do bike games tomorrow. If you're in the area, come by the Progressive booth at the stadium. We're going to have bike games right here. Tons of great prizes for that. On Saturday, we're also doing the Progressive Custom Motorcycle Show by Cycle Source Magazine. Tons of prizes there also. We're also going to be taking some feature bikes right out of this event. So don't miss it. Come hang out with us. As always, with Cycle Source events, there's no cost.
And you're in, that's Fayetteville, Arkansas, is that right?
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
That's like, is that the deep south? Is that what that's called?
It's the deep south and pretty far west, right? No, not south. We're actually in the northern west corner of Arkansas. So up by the Ozarks and Ozark National Forest. Beautiful area.
Okay, just for the record, I already don't like being remote because I can't tell. I don't have the benefit of seeing what you're doing with your camera, Chris. I don't like it.
Right.
So if we could just skip me on the camera, that'd be amazing.
So yeah, if you just stream it. Do you have another computer? Because
Oh yeah, I'm watching, but I have the benefit when I'm sitting next to him of knowing what's coming up.
That's right.
I don't right now.
So listen, Blondie, anyway, the reason you're here is because we are live. We are Facebook Live, and all you have to do to participate in this is send Heather your questions or comments. She's going to bring them up on air. But most importantly, I want to remind everybody, help keep ShopTalk getting out there. Press the share button down here. Press share. Share ShopTalk on your page. That'll help us get the numbers out there, and you know the rest of that. Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. All right, so as far as Facebook and comments, we have Mike Yurko in the house, Gary Hahn,
what's up, Mike?
Brenda and Jack DeGazio, Alex Christian, Justin Kearney says hello, Jerry Hildman says hello, Brad Gregory is here. Hey, Brad. Derek Mayhew, Josh Krager, see you in Lone Star. Yes, Josh, you will see us in Lone Star Rally.
I can't wait
and
for
Patrick
Lone Star.
Jansen is watching us. I can't wait for Lone Star.
Patrick Jansen's watching us from the other side of the tent that we're in. That's great.
Nice.
Pat says, Chris, you look pretty with your hair down.
Oh, that's because Pat and I. Ken, do you know what we've been up to? Do you know what the storyline of that is?
Yeah, you've been traveling across sleeping in a van together. That's why he's telling you your hair looks cute.
I know, because Yeah,
he wants
that's
some.
it.
Yeah, something later on.
He knows what's up, dude.
Yeah.
But the deal is, for everybody that's been paying attention, like we've been going everywhere for the last year with Grease and Gears Garage, and now Progressive has given us the green light to try a new program, and it's happening for the first time here at Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, where we went to 4 shops on the way here and did an actual episode of Grease and Gears Garage from people's shops. And I'm going to let the surprise out of the bag. So we managed to go to Casey Kennel's paint shop. Casey's an old-time pinstriper man that's done all my bikes and like has a lot of heritage with like the Big Daddy Roth crew and everybody. Went to Casey's shop. It was fantastic. Went to Daniel Donnelly's at Pandemonium. Visited Pat Patterson with Lead Sled. Ended up with Will Ramsey, where we built an entire front end, and we've turned these into whole programs. So Progressive has given us an entire lounge here for people to hang out with us and watch the programs and and do all this stuff all weekend. So yeah,
and that's opposed to them doing it live there, where they don't necessarily have all the tools they need, or they can't do exactly what it is that they want, right?
Yeah,
like that's the idea behind this, right?
We were pretty successful with even the tools and everything. We had about 15,000 pounds of tools that we were traveling around with, and we're still doing some of those. We're going to pick choice locations where we're doing that. But what I found out, and I found this out on the road this week really, really fast, the best thing about this, being in somebody's environment, you get to see how they live, who their friends are, all their cool collectible stuff. Like when we went into Casey's place, dude, we spent a solid 2 hours just going through his collection of memorabilia and all the stuff that he had collected over the years. Like it's a whole different turn to this thing, man. I'm super fired up about it.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds really cool.
What about
I can't
you?
wait to see the episodes. When are they going to go up?
Well, we're gonna do them here, but then what I thought would be cool, man, is when we broadcast them, I would like the builders to have advance notice too, so that they can be on while we broadcast it and we can interact with people live, because that's another thing. The builders are concentrated on what they're doing on stage and everything when we're doing this stuff live. So if we broadcast this live and it's me and Pat putting it out there live and the builder is there live and we're running the episode, I think it'll give more time for interaction and stuff. It'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How about you, buddy?
That is very cool.
What are you up to?
I'm super excited for it.
What are you up to?
Me?
Yeah.
I am wishing that I was riding motorcycles. I had to give that Indian back. I had to give that Indian back. So now I've got to actually kickstart that thing in my garage in order to go for a ride. It's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
I'm not as motivated, but it's beautiful. Like fall has come to Colorado. It's going to be 50 tomorrow.
Oh.
My daughter and I are actually traveling back east to
Where
New York, Washington, D.C., etc. this weekend. So.
Well, I don't know if you're going to be on 4 wheels for that trip. If you're coming through Pennsylvania, please stop and see us.
I'm not coming anywhere near Pennsylvania. Actually, that's not true. I'm going through Philadelphia, but that's about it. I'm going to see my grandmother.
Yeah.
So, nothing exciting.
Right on. So,
Chris Mike Yurko says you should go to Lorning, Maine and race your bike at the Air Force Base. I asked when.
Listen, I want to go to Loring. I want to go there. When
is it?
I'm not sure. Maybe he can tell us.
Well, I asked when. Mike, if you're still watching, tell us when, because maybe that'll be a trip back home for me.
We need some.
So
serious...
Nick is on from Forever Two Wheels Maine.
I know. I totally skipped his comment.
What's his comment?
Sorry, dude.
What's his comment?
On.
Nobody needs that visual.
What? He doesn't have any pants on. It's all right. I don't either.
Again, nobody needs that visual.
I never wear pants when we're on the show.
Yeah, it's more fun that way.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, here's something, though. I'm waiting for Nick to make up his mind if he's going to be part of the In Motion. The deal we have with In Motion with Lone Star, speaking of Lone Star, we have 14 builders that are part of that show, and part of being invited is you automatically get 2 years where you're eligible to come back. And here's, for everybody who says they haven't heard anything yet, here's this year's builders so far, because I have a few slots open from some guys who couldn't make it back for the second year. Nick has officially been invited, and we're waiting to hear his decision. So,
I've got some news about that.
Do you?
Since Nick's watching, yeah. If you want to just go right into it, because I might as well just ask you live on air.
Okay.
So Andy from Hot Leathers bought a Sportster,
and guess
who's gonna build it out?
Yeah, baby. Talk about that.
Yeah,
and what's it for?
And he wants to know if you guys would be interested. So they're actually going to build a flat tracker. They're going to hooligan race it. They're going to brand it with, whoever kind of participates in it. Nick's super fired up. We're going to get a little kind of sponsorship packet put together. We were hoping that Cycle Source would want to be involved. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Do a little.
Especially because Nick said that he's bringing it to the beach races in Galveston next year. So
I
do want to be involved.
There you go.
Very much so.
So if it's something you guys are interested in, we can talk about it later. But I just, I meant to actually ask you guys before we got on the air, but then I saw Nick, and hey, there we are.
So we got a pretty cool show coming up this evening here. Brian Klock obviously needs no introduction in the custom motorcycle world. Brian is he's one of the most amazing people in this, because like an old rock band, that I've said stuff like this before about the builders that stand the test of time. Brian has reinvented himself time and time again throughout his career, and as generations and decades pass in motorcycling, his company shares the same anniversary as Cycle Source magazine. So Klockwerks is now 22 years old. We had an opportunity to interview him. Actually, it was my bobblehead interviewed his bobblehead.
Until my mother broke your bobblehead.
And then Heather's mother broke my bobblehead, throwing a ball for the dog. Whole other story. But the first guest of the evening, Brian's second, is dude, I'm so fired up about this. We actually have one of the Nitro Circus guys coming on the show, the cat they call the Unicorn, right?
Yeah. Yep. First guy to do a triple backflip. Josh Sheehan from Australia. So
and Josh
he's going to talk about Nitro Circus. They're touring right now. I think the name of the tour is You Got This.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is so great.
Those guys,
I vote that we go to a Nitro Circus show.
Those guys are crazy. Every single one of them. Man, from Travis the whole way through the pack, like anyone who builds a ridiculous 70-foot ramp to jump a plastic big wheel off of has got.
That's awesome.
Or a scooter.
Yeah, right.
I mean, have you seen what that dude did with a scooter?
Oh my God!
It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
I'm never more aware of how old I am as when I watch some of that shit, because even like watching that or watching Jackass, my body hurts watching these guys.
So what's super cool is you missed Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That was June 21st. You guys were in Laconia.
I know.
But they are going to set up a residency in Las Vegas.
Oh, right on.
So we can talk to him about that a little bit. But yeah, they're going to set up I can't even remember where it's going to be. I want to say Mandalay Bay. They've got a huge parking lot there. And they're going to set up a residency there. They're going to have, it's going to be like going and seeing, I don't know, Tom Jones, but it's going to be Nitro Circus.
Or Cirque du Soleil. Let's keep it in the Tom Jones. This is like seeing Tom Jones.
I've heard he's got some tricks.
Yeah, I'm leaving that one
anyway.
Alone. So we got about
Pat says Brian Klock's fiance is his favorite part of Brian.
Oh.
And Nick Bollier says it's going to be Killa,
dude. So let's we got about 7 minutes until our first guest is due to be on. Let's take a little peek at the news, and then when he calls in, we'll jump out of that. First up in the news, right around the corner is the David Mann Chopper Fest, the 15th annual one. Can hardly believe this. December 9th, 2018, at the Ventura County Fairgrounds, 8 to 4.
Can we go this year?
I would love to. He keeps asking me to come back as an artist, and I would love to have some new art to take out there. And unfortunately, I haven't for a couple years because of how busy our schedule's been. But
Well, wait a minute, real quick. Speaking of art, you have some of your art on display this weekend at Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue in the Grease and Gears Garage Lounge, don't you?
I do, but they're mostly old pieces, but there's a couple new pieces, the ones that I finished for Lichter's gallery, and I'm gonna be painting Richie Pan while I'm here. So you guys stop out and hang out with me, and I'm gonna paint some live oil painting and put my thing down.
Nice.
But yeah, one of the biggest.
When is Chopperfest?
December 8th. Or 9th, I'm sorry. The 8th is the pre-party, and there's always stuff going on all around that. Man, that's like one of the best West Coast trips that we take is when we get a chance to go out for Chopperfest. So hit them up.
Yeah, I've never been out there for it.
Check out the website.
It's always a tough time of year.
Yeah.
In between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it gets busy.
So next up in the news. Reinhardt Racing to make its debut at Intermont and EICMA shows. 2018 has been a year of growth for Reinhardt Racing. This is something that we got across our news desk. Not sure.
We should go to EICMA again.
Yeah, EICMA, man. EICMA's a really badass show. The only thing like this takes my breath away because I'm starting to see more American performance companies investing in the overseas market, and it makes me want to lash out irrationally at the EPA and everyone who believes in voluntary compliance and dealing with them.
Well, I mean, as far as I know, like Europe's even harder. Like their compliance is even harder.
It is. It is, man. But I mean, the thing that I'm saying about that is that performance companies in America needing to find other markets, so they're reaching out. There's a lot of overseas outreach going on because, not only the market shrinks here, but the challenges become greater, and yeah, it would make sense. I mean, if you're able at this point, I think if you're able to pass your performance product through the California Air Resources Board, which pretty much controls the entire environment in the United States anymore, you can make it past level 29 of the European standard. So
Heather's got allergies or something. What's going on, Heather?
Heather has had some issues, hence why she's not on the road with Chris at the moment.
Aha.
Nope.
Aha.
Yeah, Blondie's kind of sick at home, Ken.
That's no fun.
No.
So, but the issue has been addressed and treatment is underway. So,
excellent. So the other thing about Reinhardt is, they got sold a year or two ago, and it seems like they're really kind of stepping up their game. I also find it interesting that companies are going over there, making the investment at Intermont and doing big things over there and not doing them here.
Yeah,
domestically.
And again, I'm gonna fire things up again by saying that's because shows like EICMA and Intermont are running proper trade shows.
Correct.
And that's something that we sorely lack in this country. Even
you're gonna get some hate mail from the AIM Expo.
I can get.
We're not going.
We're not going to the AIM Expo. We're not going because the little bit of flash that the AIM Expo was getting that made it more than just walking down the rows of another indoor retail event. They had a whole custom culture thing going on. They started doing, talking forums where people were exchanging ideas and stuff, and they got rid of all of that in one fell swoop when they fired Bob Kay. And there's all kind of promise.
There's still people doing it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, what the difference is when you go through that, and it's just, the only difference is retail vendor and manufacturer vendor. You know what I mean? And when you go row after row, and it's just like so stale and such bullshit compared to EICMA. When you go and there's like fire and lights and like all this music and people were really excited and there's tons of custom stuff and every new product and there's so much energy. What was it, Heather? 9 buildings worth of shit that was at EICMA?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was crazy.
It's basically the SEMA.
We should be embarrassed.
Motorcycles. Yeah.
This is in the United States is where the culture begins that so many people want to replicate, and the best that we can do for our industry shows are just like pale by comparison.
Yeah.
We should be embarrassed.
So I will, yeah.
That's all I'm going
Never
to say
mind.
about that.
I have nothing to say.
No, go ahead. You will say.
No, I don't have actually anything to add to it, so.
Okay, I call bullshit.
No.
Yeah, I think she's got something to
Right?
say too, but that's all right.
I call bullshit.
Well, at least the few that I did attend, because I did attend a couple AIM expos, they were so, and maybe they've done things different, I don't know, but they were so poorly attended on the public and dealer level.
You can't let the cat out of the bag, Heather.
I'm sorry. I'm honest. I'm sorry. Maybe
all the
it
press
will be
releases come
year.
out. All the press releases come out. It's the most well attended trade. Oh, it's the only trade show.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
And then I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot that they moved it to Vegas for 1 year.
Now they're saying two.
Oh, so okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I don't know, man.
Because,
who knows?
Because
maybe it will be.
It's
epic.
owned by the MIC.
You don't really want to go there with me tonight, do you?
It is. It's owned by the MIC.
I know it is. I know it
MIC.
is. And as soon as and I'm sorry that I'll be the one to say this openly and out loud, but the minute the MIC bought the AIM Expo, I cited it as a giant conflict of interest because, for large and beyond, what the MIC's function is a inner network communications between the manufacturers and their dealer networks. There's still 65% of this business that goes on, at least in the custom side of things, and now custom covers way more than just Harley chopper freaks. You know what I'm saying? 65% of this business happens in the custom and aftermarket end of this industry, and there needs to be representation both in a legislative format. It needs to be in a trade show. Like we need to have.
We got to get somebody on from the MIC. We need to let them talk. We need to let them speak for themselves.
Okay.
And I think that they would be a great future guest. Maybe we could have Grady on. He's a member of the MIC and works with them, and he could also talk about the Hamster 40th anniversary. We could start off with the Hamster 40th anniversary.
Grady's awesome. I will say that. Grady is an awesome dude. I love Grady.
Grady personally has done a lot of things for this industry and a lot of things to promote companies and brands and everything else. And I'm just saying that, like, we're at a place in time now. Back when the motorcycle industry was rocking, man, and there was more money here than anyone knew what to do with, it was a different story. But the aftermarket, man, the small mom and pop shop need more help now than ever. They need access to the information that the MIC can provide. They need representation that the MIC can provide. Yeah. And the ball doesn't stop there, man. That includes MRF and a bunch of these other organizations.
Well, and also, to be honest with you, publications, you guys. I know you guys are not a B2B publication, but you are kind of, you guys have kind of taken that on where you're, somewhat of an industry staple. And I think that that's really important. That's hopefully your phone ringing right there. It is.
I have an unknown caller.
Perfect.
Hey, you're on the air with Chris and Ken.
Hi, is that Ken?
Yes. Is this Josh?
Yeah, Josh Sheehan here. Yes, how are you?
What's up, Josh? How are you?
Chris's call's not coming through.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
No. 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Check.
Yep. Sounds all right.
There he is.
There he is. All right.
How's that, Josh?
Yeah, you sound all right.
Good. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm super fired up that you came in, man. Been waiting to one of you guys, and unfortunately, I understand that you just had a pretty serious accident.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say serious, but it was a big one. Lucky to be okay after that.
Yeah. So tell us that what happened.
So at World Games, just on the weekend gone, I was doing my biggest trick that I've ever done. A double back flip with a Superman in the middle of it, and I over-rotated the first one and just as I've got back on the bike, just as I've got back on the bike, I realised that I've rotated too far and just landed the wheel and I've fallen back and just basically reverse cartwheeled my bike, and then as I'm tumbling, I feel the rear wheel going into my, having to got my helmet and my jersey, and then it ripped my jersey off, and thankfully I didn't get anything caught in the wheel or chain. I just tumbled through and got up with a little bit of a sore shoulder and no jersey.
Yeah. Well, it was really impressive. Then you went out and you actually did it. You did it the second time.
Yeah, nothing more than sore muscles, so that was handy.
Is he not hearing us, Chris?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think we have a bad connection.
We good?
I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who aren't indoctrinated into Nitro, so you give us just a quick overview or a quick what Nitro Circus is. You went to a show. I know there's one here in Denver. There's a bunch in California. We want to encourage you to go check it out.
You still there?
Yeah, hang on 1 second, man. We have a bad connection here.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to put you on for a second and read the news until I get this doctored up.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's talk about the news a little bit. So one of the things that came up, and we've got a video, Chris doesn't have to show it right now, but we'll show it later. So Cake Motorcycles, if you've never heard of them, they are a company out of Sweden, I believe, and it's actually kind of almost a motorized mountain bike. And they're talking about doing their own kind of tracks. So they unveiled their own track design. And it's a really cool concept where they're taking kind of motocross as well as bicycles and kind of combining them. And the thing that's cool about it, because they are electric, you can actually go indoors. They could set up these tracks indoors. They're meant to be set up in kind of more urban environments. So, in the middle of if you were having a bicycle festival or some sort of, you could do it in a concrete, parking lot. And that's great because all that's going to do is it's going to help promote motorcycling. I'm sure there's already people out there talking about the fact that, oh, that's not a motorcycle, but it is, it's on two wheels. How are we looking, Chris?
I think we're good. Josh, do you hear us good now?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, good. Sorry about that.
There we go. Sorry about that.
We're set up at a live remote tonight with the studio portion of this, so we're trying to make the best of it as we go.
Okay.
So Ken had a question. He wanted you to talk for people who are not here right now with Nitro Circus. He talked about the different shows around the country and stuff, but he wanted to fill everybody in about, what can they expect coming out to a Nitro Circus show.
So, yeah, Nitro Circus, the group started with Pastrana and his good buddies, and they were always just pushing themselves, each other, and trying to progress with everything that we're doing. I ride freestyle motocross, and they've got, there's basically two sides to the show. There's the freestyle motocross, and then there's the motor powered. So there's a big roll in, and there's BMX, mountain scooters, skateboard, and they have contraptions and all sorts going down that end. So they have a crazy setup. They've got a new ramp that's 12 foot high takeoff, and they roll in, and the BMX guys warm up with a double backflip on that jump. So with double backflips, then there's double front flips, and basically every single trick that you can think of on a BMX, a scooter, and there's Ryan Williams, who the world's best scooter. He does a lot of his tricks on a BMX bike as well. So it's crazy to see what they're able to do, and and they're constantly pushing it and new tricks. And Ryan William has, I forget, I think it's over 100 worlds first, where he's just always trying to learn these new tricks. And the freestyle motocross guys, we are basically doing constantly training to try and learn new tricks, but we are performing all of our latest tricks over a 23-meter gap, along with a couple of other little motor contraptions on our side as well. So I just had a look at the rundown then and saw another buggy that hasn't been on tour yet. So I think there's a couple of things in the tour that I'm not even aware of yet. So I'm pretty excited myself.
That's great. So, what do you think Nitro Circus does to help get kids on motorcycles? I mean, it's one of the things that we talk about on our show a lot is kind of new rider recruitment. We are all firm believers in getting kids out on motorcycles, and I feel this is one of the ways, to get kids outside and doing something other than playing Fortnite and staring at their phone.
Yeah, that's right. It's a real, there's a lot of energy around the Nitro Circus, and we have a lot of fun, and I think we get a lot of kids excited. And fortunately or unfortunately for some parents, I get a lot of messages after about the parents saying, "Oh, my kid really wants a bike now," and there's a fair bit of motivation after they see the show, but. I guess it's a good thing for some people. Some parents hate it that their kids want to go after. But yeah, I think the energy and the excitement, the fun that we have on the bike is what motivates the kids. And yeah, hopefully we continue to get a lot more in the sport.
Well, man, this is something that I have to say about your sport, because I was fortunate enough to grow up around right down the street from Mad Mike Jones. So but Mad Mike near my house, and Trevor from wherever was right across the border in Ohio. I've watched this sport from the very beginning, and dude, seriously, not blowing sunshine up your ass, where you guys have taken this now is mind-blowing. And it was the tricks that those guys were doing back in the beginning were incredible. I mean, to think about the way they handled those machines, but a triple backflip. I told someone that we were interviewing you tonight, and they go, "Oh, the guy from Nitro Circus." I said, "Yeah, they did the first cat to do the triple backflip." And they said, "Someone has actually done a triple flip on a motocross bike." I was like, "Yeah, man, that's how far this has come."
It's ridiculous. It's mind-blowing. I can't believe it myself. I used to watch Mad Mike Jones when I was young, and used to think, "Oh, these guys are crazy." Loved finding jumps and doing little tricks, but I remember at one point I was watching an old, Mad Mike and those guys on a Krusty's movie.
Yeah.
My mum stuck her head in. She said, "You're never done one of those," talking about a backflip. And I just thought nothing of it. And then, I learned the backflip when Travis was double flipping. And then I was just so motivated from then on. And I thought a single flip was cool. Never thought double, but you never know where things will take you, and nowadays it's just been unbelievable. Where with foam pits and now airbags and these new massive takeoff ramps, we can try more and with so much less risk, without just going fucking something and hopefully landing it to a dirt landing.
It's still a lot, man. You guys really put it on the line. You do, because this is the kind of thing this isn't bumps and bruises, man. That things, if something goes wrong, this is serious.
Yeah, that's right. We, I guess, the main driver of the safety in the sport now, because we've had to change the way we do things, the way we train, and the way we prepare and come up with these competitions, is because we can't just go and throw something that we think we can do. Because, a crash will has killed a couple of people, so we really can't afford to make mistakes. And to win competitions these days, we need to be perfect without making any mistakes. And to be perfect, you need to practice, and over and over again. So to keep going and stay healthy and fit as long as we can. So we have to really look after ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, and after watching kind of what you guys were doing this past weekend at the Nitro games, you know, it seems like double backflips are basically the standard now, right? I mean, that's what everybody top of their game is doing, right?
Well, it depends if you look at the scoring or if you look at it, but there's a personal little dig at the judging system for that. That'll be getting changed, and I mean, double flip it's still not a standard. There's not that many doing them, but on a big ramp like that, it's certainly a lot easier to get around, and a lot safer too. It's a real scary jump to hit because we're just going twice as high. But that setup that we had on the day, we have an inflatable top landing, so there is some give in the landing, and that's saved already. It saved a couple of us over the weekend, and it doesn't make a double flip not scary. It certainly helps a lot.
So,
sure.
Josh, tell us about the motorcycle that you're riding. What are you riding in the shows?
So I ride a CRF 450. I've been on a 4-stroke or 50 since 2008, and actually from about 2007. But I tried a 254-stroke 1 year, but just loved the power of the 4-stroke. So I basically, plenty power. I just whack an exhaust on it to lighten that up and make it a little crisper so it runs right. And stiff suspension is the important thing to handle all the jumps, the hits, and actually so our bodies can handle the hits. And then a few small mods like, say, handlebar, some flip levers on the bars for certain tricks, steering dampener, keep the bar straight when we let go, and a few cuts, a few holes in to be able to grab the seat, and I throw an ignition on my bike too to really make it run nice.
Oh, right on. So how old are you?
32.
32. And in the life of a freestyler, where is that as far as longevity of a career?
Well, it's further than what I thought as a kid, but I went into the sport late, so I think I avoided some of the stupid crashes that some when they're really young. But I thought it was until I got there. When I got to 30, I realised I was at my peak, and so motivation is the big thing I've got to keep going now. But 35 would be, there's not too many people. There's a couple of up around sort of 35 to 40, but when you get to 35, I guess you really start backing off and taking care of yourself and thinking about what you're doing.
No, I know this from I grew up on guys motocrossing, like the whole LoJack family, Gene Stahl, a bunch of guys from the southwestern Pennsylvania District 5 scene. And I know, like, in motocross, training is where it's all at, man. Like, if you don't train and not just practice with your bike, you got to keep your body in top physical shape to be able to handle yourself on the bike. And talk about that with what you're doing and how important training is and what kind of training you do to prepare for this.
Yeah, that's right. It's very important, and to be able to handle some of the crashes and to recover after the crash, you just need to be not as fit as motocrossers, but strong and durable. So I do train with if I'm riding a lot, getting real sore, I often do a bit of jogging or cycling if I'm too sore. But say you jog something light every day, or so I do a fair few weights like that. The double back flip that I did on the weekend was so hard on my core. It's basically as soon as I leave the ramp, I take my feet off, and it feels like I spend the whole rest of the jump just trying to get my feet back on because it's just trying to throw my legs out. It just strains my upper body and my abs.
Oh man, it's incredible. Pictures of you in the air doing that trick are incredible. Like I can't even imagine how much strength it would take just to hold on to the bike, let alone to get back to the handlebars in the seat, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do a lot of core, and I have to try extra hard in my shoulders now after a few injuries. So, but yeah, between squats, so the legs, core, and shoulders, I really try and make sure they're strong and flexible.
Right on.
Excellent. So, are you going to be on the whole tour for Nitro Circus or with Nitro Circus?
I'm pretty much the stop. So I go up to Edmonton at the moment, and I need to get home to some of those gnarly tricks before Sydney X Games. So after Edmonton, I'll get just under a week to get my foam pit and airbag practice or taken off for the final competition.
Oh, okay, cool. You're going to be with them when they go to Australia in 2019.
Yeah. I always try and do all the tours, but just every now and then that timing doesn't work out.
Understood. Yeah, that must be cool to be able to perform in front of kind of your hometown crowd, so to speak.
Yeah, hometown. We'd love touring the home country because not only does it feel like home, even if you're not in your home city, you're all, I guess, close. You have fun together, and we even get to go home during the week. It's a real treat for us to be able to be close to home.
I don't know. So Ken was telling me prior to coming on the show, he was talking a little bit about the Vegas race. Do you want to talk? About that a little bit, Ken?
Well, I have more information. I just know that they're going to be setting up a residency somewhere in Vegas. I don't even know what the hotel is.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I don't know that much either. No, they've been talking about it for quite a while now, and I've just heard, I've heard that they have locked in a place and that it is going ahead. But I'm still not sure exactly where and what's going to happen. They just, when they tell us the news, I listen and get on board, but it'll be a pretty full-on thing. I heard it'll be a 4 or 5 shows a week kind of thing every weekend, or I'm not even sure. But it's lots of shows a weekend. It's a lot of things, so it's pretty exciting. Hopefully everyone gets on board and heads along to watch whoever's performing.
Yeah, I think that having it there, it seems like I'm surprised nobody's done it before. Because it's basically the Soleil of extreme sports, right?
Yeah, that's right. We've actually been spoken to by the odd circus to try and get involved, but it's so different. It's no one's doing these stunts shows around motorbikes and bikes like this, so it's awesome to be able to have a venue set up for just full time, just stunts and extreme activities.
Man, that kind of show schedule, that sounds like a lot of guys to fill those spots. Yeah, well, the show at the moment, I think it's around 25 athletes. So it's a handful, and then there's the group that there's 10 or 12 crew that's set up and set up the stage, and then they have to get some local scaffolders and crew to lay out the flooring and set up the ramp, and then there's the Nitro staff that work behind the scenes to make it all happen. So it's the road trip. I remember last big tour like this, we got 9 sleeper buses and 15 trucks moving all the gear around. Wow. That's massive setup. That's a serious amount of production, yeah. Yeah. What about the motorcycles themselves? Do you guys Do you maintain and, do every bike yourself so you know what kind of condition it's in, or is there a staff of guys that are behind?
Well, with the motor, we've got two guys that help us with everything. Billy Van Buut, that Jolene's brother, he helps out with everything really, but helps anyone do any maintenance, anything that we need. A lot of BMX guys like to do their themselves, and we have Luke a mechanic he's worked for a few of us, a few of the motorbike riders at some X Games and X Fighters, and he's there all the time, and every day, every show, he unloads the bikes. He'll check the oil, check the fuel, fork, for a few of us air forks. He'll check the air pressures, and basically we can rock up there and we all put enough trust in him to look after everything. So it's very handy. Everyone usually runs in there, and a few people like to check on their own things, maybe check their levers, handlebars, whatever, or their fuel. A lot of people do like to just see the fuel themselves to make sure it's in there. And, but yeah, we have the guys that really look after us and the bikes.
You got to have a lot of trust for a man in that position, because seriously, we know a lot of the, motorsports athletes, and even thinking down to the guys that ride in the wall of death, they very seriously take care of their own motorcycles only, because the situation that they end up in, you don't want to have to wonder who was working on the glass. So there's an incredible amount of trust that has to go into a relationship between the athlete and the mechanic, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I think every rider pretty much is their own mechanic at home, and at Sinclair, Blake Williams, myself, maybe Clinton Moore, we've all used this one guy he used to work for the Honda race team in Australia, and for the last 5-6 years he's worked just for the riders. So he's earned a bit of trust. He's really good at what he does, and we can all trust him. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of trust there.
Right on, Josh. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. I know we've been on for a half an hour now, and we really appreciate you giving us, kind of the lowdown, a little glimpse into your life and what you do. And we'll let you now, but thanks so much for coming on with us.
Real quick, before we do let you go, where can people follow you personally and keep tabs on Nitro Circus?
Sorry, please repeat that.
I said, before we let you, where can people keep tabs on what you're doing personally and what the Nitro Circus is? What is your social media contact?
Yep. I must have just cut out a bit. I cut out a bit. So personally, you can follow me. Facebook and Instagram are the main ones, and my handle is Sheeny FMX. So Sheeny or Sheehan myself. Sheeny was the obvious Aussie nickname. Sheeny FMX, and for the Nitro Circus, everything. The competition for the tour, dates, tickets is all on nitrocircus.com.
Right on.
Awesome.
Well, man, we wish you nothing but the most speedy recovery. I know you said that you didn't get it too bad, but thankfully not. So we wish you that a speedy recovery, you can get back into it, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate the time, guys.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
Yes.
Crazy. Dude's crazy.
But he's not. I mean, that's the
thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's what's so, you watch any of those Nitro Circus videos, you watch, Travis egging people on and getting them to do stuff, and you're just like, wow, they're crazy, but they're not.
And that's the biggest thing. That's why I brought up, Mad Mike Jones and Trevor Vines and stuff from the beginning of the sport, because, those guys literally would just go out and whip shit and see what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they've abused themselves to learn some of that stuff. And these guys are scientists, man. They really are. I mean, I remember when Travis first got that foam pit together, everybody was like, oh my God, Travis has a pit where he's practicing the backflip, you know?
Yeah.
So I have to tell you that when you asked him how old he was, the mother and grandmother in me wanted to answer for him, old enough to know better. But you know,
come on, Heather.
But no, I mean that's the realistic mom and grandma in me. But you know, I want to take my grandson to see this. He will love it, and I know he'll get scars, and that's okay because chicks will dig it later. But it will inspire him to ride.
Well, and you know that risk taking, I think that there's a piece of that we, you know, as humans, you know, some of us are more inclined to take risk. But the thing that's so cool is listening to him talk about like, yeah, it doesn't make a double backflip not scary.
Right.
You know, like he's still scared. Like that is a full on human emotion, you know? It's like and so to hear kind of that human side of it is so it's so cool and refreshing, and just hearing, you know, the fact that the unicorn, you know, which
we didn't ask how he got the nickname.
Because he's the unicorn, dude. He did a triple backflip.
Oh,
he is the unicorn.
That's like the elusive thing.
But there's always a cool ass story behind something like that. Sure you know, there was someone that gave him that name.
You'll have to ask him.
You know.
Yeah.
So real quick before I forget.
Yeah.
And this isn't like super important, but Chris, I don't think he's actually been on before. Kevin Smith is watching.
Oh, right.
And for those of you who are just getting this month's magazine, Kevin is actually the subject of Chris's editorial this month. And I just wanted you to know that he's watching.
It was this show and the current events that we talk about all the time that brought this up. But, you know, Pat Jansen mentioned to me in conversation, he was like, you know, if the motorcycle industry really wants to see growth and really wants to see new riders come in, they need to excite their core. Because it's, you know, you can do all the outreach that you want, but when you excite your core will go get those new riders for you. You know, and like, I immediately took this to my editorial like I do anything, and I talked about what excited me and what got me into everything when I was young was the older guy next door, and that was Kevin Smith, who's watching tonight. And man, Kevin,
that's so cool.
Kevin jump, you know, he would do one cinder block, I would jump one cinder block on my bike. He'd do 3, I'd do 3. He'd jump 4 kids, I'd jump 4 kids. You know, he got to do a cross up on a motocross bike and shoot the peace sign. I practiced that and ate shit in my front yard until I could do it, because if Kevin could do it, I wanted to do it. It was cool. And that's an example of doing stuff that you love, exciting your core and making things exciting, and things will naturally progress, man. You know?
You know, it's so funny. I think everybody in some form or other has that. I guess not everyone, but a lot of people have that experience of having somebody, maybe not a mentor, because that's probably not a good way of describing it, but somebody that you aspire to be like, or have, you know, there's things that they're doing that you're like, wow, that's cool, especially in the motorcycle space. You know, I had a guy that, I'm sure I've told this story before, that I saw riding across the U.S. He was, you know, I was 18 years old, and I was like, that is what I want to do, you know. And so it's stunning today that I get to do that and do it for a living. You know, it's pretty cool.
And you know, there was the ups and downs of it too. I mean,
of course,
Kevin did a lot of cool stuff that I ended up doing, and it has enriched my life a lot. Kevin was about 10 years older than me, so he started smoking pot a lot earlier than I would have, but he did it, so I wanted to do it too. But man, like the memories of sitting in his room, listening to the then brand new AC/DC High Voltage album, and building little Revel model choppers, like that's why I'm here today, man. And yes, we may have had a few.
Might have twisted up a number or two.
Right. You know, but that was it. We were kids.
Look at Heather. Heather's just
She's
grimacing.
disgusted. She's disgusted.
She's like,
me.
Oh my God, you guys.
You are a pot
Guess
taker.
what, Heather? It's legal in like 40 states right now. So, yeah.
Whatever.
I know.
Well, Kevin, thank you for being my inspiration when we were kids, man, because you made a really, really big impact on me, and it's provided me with a fantastic life in and around motorcycling.
That's pretty cool, right?
So, what do you think? Next guest time?
Yeah, let's get Brian on. He put it out there on...
I'm sorry. I have interview music. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that he put it out on Facebook that we're going to get him on, so I think he's got it on his feed.
Right on. So our guest is Brian Klock. I'm going to give it a shot. You guys that watch the show all the time know sometimes this works, sometimes not so much.
Kevin, you have to know your mom knows.
Hello.
Brian, what's up, man? You're on the air with Chris and Ken.
How are you guys?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Awesome.
So good to catch up with you.
Really cool because I can see you guys' faces, and every once in a while you show us, your beautiful bride, which is the best part. So
I know.
That's nice.
And her mother says the exact same thing. She actually criticizes when I don't put Heather on enough. Now we're just going to leave it on Heather for a while.
Okay,
No.
Perfect. Let's do it.
No, not
You
me
can't hide.
today.
You can't hide. So I was telling everybody,
no makeup. Give me a break.
as we were coming on the show, I was telling everybody that Klockwerks and Cycle Source actually share an anniversary, and we learned this.
No, you can't say no. See, we can't even hear you. It's perfect, Heather. We can see you trying to say that, but you're not saying anything.
But you and I also share a pretty significant passion for the Bonneville Salt Flats. And, man, I got to go back again this year, and I was thinking about the times that I've spent out there with you and your family, and, I was so missing that.
I think we're all missing that. I ran into none other than Wink Eller.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, I go to Costa Mesa, California every 2 weeks. Vanessa, my fiance, her daughter lives there. And when we go out there, 6 o'clock in the morning, you can go to Donut Derelicts. And sure enough, Wink drives an hour and a half to get to this donut shop because the show is only from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in Huntington Beach. And I always find somebody there to talk to. I've run into Kevin Alsop from Big Bear, Jonathan Reed from Sport Chrome. I ran into Dustin Boyko and Ken Boyko from Cobra. And, of course, none other than Wink Eller. And, of course, we're talking stories, and Wink has the best stories.
Yeah, Wink's a pretty incredible human being. He really is. I've watched for a lot of years, at Bonneville, since that's the topic we're talking about. I've watched Wink for a lot of years help a lot of people do their thing at Bonneville, man. That's a great dude.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing I love about Bonneville is it's still so raw. It's so something people can relate to and people can get together, and it doesn't matter if you're Al Lamb and have a full-blown semi and all the access to the best technology. He shares it with the little guy who's just brought his bike out in the back of his pickup and is trying to go for it.
Hey, you know what was
that
the
was
coolest?
my favorite part.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Go ahead, baby. Tell him about Al.
No, that was my whole favorite thing about Bonneville is when you got out on that salt, it didn't matter how much money you had. If you needed a part, if you needed a tool, you went down the line, and if somebody had it, they lent it to you. I mean, heck, Al Lamb smoked brisket for 15 hours and fed everybody on the salt. Yep. Everybody was welcome. It didn't matter who you were.
And that was awesome. This was after the fact that Al's motorcycle got hung up in transit
in Bolivia,
and he didn't even have his big red motorcycle there. He spent the entire time there with a full complement and fed everybody one night at Bonneville, regardless of the fact that his bike didn't show up.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so great. I mean, I just think that you become not only racers, but it forms a brotherhood, as cliche as that sounds. It's no different than watching the Cannonball go across the country in the last couple weeks, Yeah, we're all watching from afar. They're all doing cool things. If they happen to stop in your state, you want to get there. But at the end of the day, when you see all those folks, you'll see them at in Las Vegas or something in January at one of the vintage motorcycle auctions. And they're all at the auction, but more importantly, they're all downstairs afterwards, all hanging out in the same bar, like they take the thing over, because they're all just want to chill and to keep talking motorcycles.
And I think there's a piece, that kind of runs through that too, which is it's not motivated by money. If anything, anybody that's doing either of those things is losing money, right? Like nobody's making money at either one of either one of those events, right?
Yeah. You're working your tail off to get a little medal that says perfect miles. I did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? Chris was so excited that he got the participant T-shirt. That was enough for him.
Nice.
See, that's a win.
No, you know what our big accomplishment was this year at Bonneville, Brian?
What's that?
Heather and I both got staff shirts because we volunteered for the gate for a couple days.
That's the best.
And it's one of my most prized collections from Bonneville now.
Well, and I remember Chris when you rode out there with your mom's ash on your bagger, and I mean, it was one of those moments where it was the end of the day, racing was over, the sun was setting, it was quiet out there, and you pulled up on the bagger and you're like, I'm going to go off over there. Yeah. And I'm like, perfect, dude. And I gave you a hug and you just rode off across the salt. But I knew it was that moment that it was like, the whole reason you rode all the way from Pittsburgh to there just culminated, and like you have that moment, and you can't ever replace that.
No, and you know the great thing about us going back this year, a lot of people have heard me talk about this, but that bike that I was on when I had that Sportster tank with my mom's ashes in it, that's the bike that we rebuilt into War Pony that we took out to Bonneville this year. So it was that same motor and tranny.
It's back. It's just a little different.
Yeah, man. I love it. I love this life. I love this life around motorcycles.
It is. It's the best. And I mean, I think, the best part about it is when people don't get hung up on what they're riding, or that whatever I built's greater than what you've built, or even if they come into this and they bring all that ego and all that machismo, and then all of a sudden they lose it, that's when they really become part of the motorcycle industry, and they really, really get it.
Man, and this was what I said before we got on air tonight, or before we got you on air with us. We were talking about you, and I talked about how you're like one of the great rock bands that stands the test of time, because as we're sitting here talking to you, motorcycles that you've built over the years are scrolling by, and I'm looking going, man, damn, I remember that bike with the X-Wedge motor, and I remember the Root Buell, and like you've built some of the Cherry Bomb, some of my favorite custom motorcycles that ever came through the scene. And you, unlike a lot of builders who get into a groove and that's their thing and that's what they do, and they do it until the day they die, you have shown such diversity in your builds, man, that it's just been a pleasure to watch.
Well,
a real evolution. I
didn't even know what to say. That's a huge compliment. And the funny thing is, I always, Dan and I used to talk about this, and I mean, Carly, my youngest daughter, sent in those photos, and it's almost embarrassing to me, but I'm looking at them going, wow, it's been a hell of a run. I mean, if I die tomorrow, I already did everything I wanted to do,
Nope.
I mean, I'm looking at that benchmark bagger. That was 2001.
Right.
That was before the chopper craze in 4 and 6, when Biker Build Off was on TV and you just couldn't build a chopper fast enough. You built that bagger in 01. And the beauty of it is that, I always said, everybody can write a hit song. That's the easy part. You can put together one bike and it'll look unbelievable and it'll stand the test of time. But if you actually go for timeless design and try to build something that's not only cool today, but it'd be cool if you pulled it out of the garage 10 years from now.
Yeah.
That's the real trick, I think, and that's what makes great rock bands great rock bands.
Yep.
For sure.
So
what was your background? I mean, that's the piece that I'm always interested in. Like, what was it that got you into bikes and got you thinking about designing bikes and parts and that sort of thing?
The thing for me was when I was the kid who couldn't keep my attention span in high school to save my life. So I'd put the Hot Rod magazine or the Cycle World magazine in my textbook and sneak it into class, and then I'd sit there and act like I'm paying attention, but I'm totally not paying attention. Teacher come around, I'd try to hide it, and then I'd get in trouble. Okay, so then I'd put my notes out there, and then I'd start drawing hot rods and 32 Fords and choppers and stuff on the side of my paper, and then I'd get in trouble for that. And so I just thought, man, one day, wouldn't it be cool if I ever built a car or built a motorcycle that could be in one of those magazines? That would be so awesome, you know? I mean, I'll never be as cool as Chris Callan and have my own magazine.
Shush.
But if I could have a bike in there, you know, that would be cool. And now, I mean, far exceeded any of my expectations. And I mean, I went to college for radio and TV the first year and a half, journalism degree. Bailed out on that, went back to college, took a semester of business classes, drank that semester away. Don't even know what happened there. I spent a lot of money for nothing. Then I came back to Mitchell, got into the woodworking business of all things, because a friend of mine and I, he used to have a huge sound system. We'd go do dances and all these, you know, proms and all these weddings and all this stuff all in the area. And he had this woodworking business. We got into that, and that's kind of where I got my taste of manufacturing and a little bit of making something full-on custom that people wanted and how to mass produce it. But even that, we got going so big, and we got him fully out of debt, and he bought me out, and I got to go back to college, and I wanted to finish school. My next chance at school, I went to school for business and communications both, and I was working for my dad. I'm from a town of 350 people. There was 13 kids in my class, and my dad owned the local gas station. So he was always the guy who had cars and the, you know, cool wheels or whatever. So I've been changing oil since I was a kid, you know. Yeah. And that went on to, I got an opportunity through school to go to Japan for a month. I had an opportunity there to be a Japanese English teacher and go over to Japan. My dad had a heart attack, and I turned the job down because my brothers aren't into this thing, and I was. And so I just thought I better just stay home and take care of business, you know. Fast forward to, I've repossessed a mini mart thing that my dad had going on, a video lottery casino restaurant thing my brother had going on. I managed a body shop. I worked at another guy's motorcycle shop. And all of those jack of all, master of none prepared me for the summer when I got all those businesses back and done and sold to just take off and say, I'm going to work on motorcycles. And my dad goes, that's a great idea, but you're going to have to figure out what you can do to make money, because I'll give you the summer off. But after that, you're going to figure it out, dude. Right, and I never went back, you know.
That's great.
That's the story of never wanting to grow up, that I think is a common thread for all of us, you know. And here's the deal: when you're young and you think about this, you're like, man, it'd be so cool, be around motorcycles with my buddies all the time, and you know, it would be almost like not working.
Oh, for sure, that's exactly the deal, you know. and then all of a sudden, reality hits. You know, Dan Cheeseman, who's been my business partner for. Well, he's been with me working at Klockwerks for 20 years and now is a co-owner. And when he came in, it was so funny because he goes, man, I just want to do what you do. I go, what's that, starve and have no money?
Yeah.
Because, you know, when Dan came to me, I said, all I can do is, you know, I'll promise you that I'll starve before you ever go hungry, but I've never even had an employee. I don't even know how this works, you know? And so we were working out of John Patton's garage, a friend of mine, and he needed some health insurance. So that's the first time I ever bought health insurance, because he was getting sick and having some things happen. And, you know, I made a lot of dumb mistakes in those first 10 years.
Oh, how about it?
Yeah. You know, I was the kid who bounced checks and couldn't keep anything together and robbed Peter to pay Paul. You'd go from one custom bike build to the next because you couldn't really make any money doing it. Because you'd put 40 hours in that you'd charge the guy for, but you'd actually put 120 hours in because you wanted to make it cooler than anybody else's, and you really wanted to get some attention, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that little bit of advice right there, Brian. I mean, any aspiring bike builder out there should listen to that.
Yeah, just be prepared.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta love it, and that's the thing that we're talking about all the time. So
that's for sure.
What's new with Klockwerks? What can we break on the world for you?
Oof, that's a tough call. I'm so busy right now trying to figure out how to be a good business person. We've been working on communication the whole year, and that means my entire team, just one talking to the other person, and whether it's relationships with our vendors, relationships with the people that we're going to events for, our distributor, Drag Specialties, anybody, it's like that was a big thing for us. And so we're really trying to nail down those processes. Of course, we're still working on windshields, and while that seems redundant, it's like, hey, the guys who are making Kleenex, yeah, the Kleenex will be boring, but I'll tell you what, they're doing okay.
Yeah, right. I would take that business.
Yeah. And so, I always remind the guys, the reps at Drag and everybody, it's like, yeah, the windshield seems old hat, because we first came out with it in after the Bonneville Salt Flats Racing, after the Street Channel Biker Build-Off, after the world's fastest bagger in 07. And so now here we are, 11 years later, it still works as great as ever, and what we're doing is just taking that same technology and all the things we learned from racing and from taking it to the wind tunnel and stuff and applying that to the new bikes. We're excited to be working with Indian, being the accessory windshield, the flare windshield on that side of it. Harley, still 80% of our marketplace, so every time they come out with a new bike, it means we got to hustle because somebody's calling us and going, hey, I just got the new Sport Glide. Do you have a windshield for that? I'm like, I don't even know what that fairing looks like. I haven't seen one yet, The guy's already calling going, I had it on my bagger. I think I got to have it on this new one,
Well, and there's a big trick to this is, like you said earlier, anybody can write one hit song. The riggers and the obstacles to go through that when, Harley Davidson comes out with an entire new line of motorcycles, and in short order, you are going to have to prepare your product to adapt to all the changes that have gone on in a model year. I mean, that's got to be a heavy load, man, because from the time that you have to start realizing what those changes are, adapting your product to it when it has to be in market, when those guys are in play, that can't be a lot of time.
Well, and it isn't, and it's what's even more shocking to me is that a customer calls and says, hey, Harley's coming out with that new on-off-road, the adventure bike. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Pan America.
Yeah, the Pan America. They're like, are you going to have a windshield for that? I'm like,
what?
How do you even get one, dude? It's like, it doesn't come out
2020.
Right.
Yeah, right.
This guy's already thinking he's going to buy one for sure. And he's like, I hope you can fix it. I'm like, it's not even broke yet. Are you sure it doesn't work?
That's awesome.
But I think that's
so great.
I think the great thing about that is we have been able to build such a loyal fan base. One of my favorite stories is a guy came to Daytona, and it was right after Harley came out with the Vent, the Rushmore series in 2014, the new Street Glide and the new. And so he comes there and he's standing there and he's looking at us talking, and these couple guys come in with their new bikes, and I said, yeah, here's what this does, and here's how this works, and here's everything, and it really, the Vent helped us. It was perfect, and the guy's like stands there and he goes, hey, I just heard you talking to those guys and kind of feel like I cheated on my girlfriend. I said, oh, okay, this is interesting. Why is that? He said, I got one of those new Street Glides, and they just put the Harley version of the windshield on my bike, and they financed it, and I thought, they're probably on to you by now, right? And I figured it would work. He said, now I hear you talking to those guys, and I kind of want to try it again because I think I maybe made a mistake. And he came in, he put our windshield on, and come back, and he's just laughing. He goes, it'll never happen again. I'm so sorry. He goes, you just keep that Harley windshield and leave this one on my bike. I said, all right, fair enough.
Right on.
But, if you would have told me when I was growing up and riding my Honda 50 mini bike and charged the neighbor kids a nickel for 10 laps so I could go buy bubblegum and comic books that I'd be selling windshields, Dan and I both would have laughed at you.
Yeah, well, let's talk about for a minute for people who know you for the windshield but might not know the story of where that's come from. let's talk about the history of the development of that product.
Yeah, no problem. When we were asked to do the Discovery Channel Biker Build-Off the first time, I turned them down. We were in a little garage, a single-car garage. There's no room to even bring a camera in there, let alone me barely get some motorcycles in there. And I told them no. And that was 2014. And then in 16, they called me back and they said, hey, we still want you to be on the show. And I said, or 2006, sorry, 2004 and 2006. Anyway, I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But let me talk to my team first. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, if they're not all cool with it, then I'm not doing this. And they're like, what do you mean? You can't just turn us down. I'm like, I'm not turning you down. Just let me talk to everybody and I'll make sure we're okay with it, because I don't want something like, hey, we're going to be on TV to break up the band, because I really had a good group of guys and I wanted to keep them together, you know? So we did it. We built the bike, and we're the first and only one to ever build a bagger for that show. We didn't tell them before they got to our shop we were building, because we knew that they'd be upset with us. And sure enough, they got there. Well, you know, Jay Hart's bringing this cool little bobber thing. And I said, I understand. I don't even care. It's the first time in my life I was okay with losing. I'm like, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to lose in front of 3 million people, and I'm going to do it on my dime. Right, because you're not paying me to build this. And we were already stretching fenders for people. We were already building some cool sheet metal pieces for the baggers. We said, how could we build a bike that people will understand that this is not your dad's bagger? This thing's going to be fast. It's going to handle good. It's going to have the best brakes. It's going to have carbon fiber wheels. It's going to have a 124-inch motor that has B2 drag racing heads. It put out 175 horse at the rear wheel. That was a big deal back then. Yeah. You know? And sure enough, we put the wheelie bars on it because that was the ridiculous part of TV. We had to show people it was fast somehow. And they're not going to be able to see it by looking at the motor. We won, and before we won, I'd already decided that we were going to lose. And if we lose, we're going to take this bike to Bonneville, and we're going to just make a pass. Even if we go 80 miles an hour, who cares? Right. At least we are proving that we did not build a trailer queen. So the first day I get out to the Discovery Channel thing, they said, well, you know, you can haul your bike to the first stop. I'm like, not a chance. I rode it out here. I'm going to ride it to the next thing, you know? And we did. And when we took it to Bonneville, we had to take the big, long, extended bags off. We had to pull the wheelie bars off. We had to put cop bags on it. And you couldn't blow the exhaust down on the salt, so we had to change the exhaust pipe. Yeah. We did it, and my ex-wife, Laura, got on that thing, and the first pass, it was crazy. You know, she took off, and the bike just started roaring, and it sounded so good. And if you've ever been to the Salt Flats, you know it's like standing on a frozen lake. If you've ever experienced that with no wind, you can hear a pin drop. There's no trees, there's no ambient noise, there's nothing out there. And everybody gets quiet when a bike takes off because there's nothing cooler than that sound, right? Yep. And she's taking off, and it's just whop, whop, whop. And she gets into fourth gear, and all that thing just goes crazy. A guy looks at me and goes, oh, she blew it up. I'm like, no, she didn't. She's going for it. And, man, that bike just took on a life, and it was screaming, and I was so petrified because I'm like, she was just supposed to take one easy pass, and she couldn't do it. She just couldn't do it, right? So she's juicing that thing and getting after it, and it's going so fast. And, man, it's fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. And when she went through the traps, they called back, and she'd gone like 143.6 miles an hour. And we just thought, you know, if she went 100, would be cool. Yeah. And I'm like, I personally knew that bike wobbled at 125. I've been out on the highway, and at 125, the front end starts lifting. So I told her, do not go faster than that. Clearly, she doesn't listen very well. 20 miles an hour plus that. She goes 143 miles an hour, and that's how we came up with that windshield. Yeah. Because on the way home, we're driving in the car, and Carly and Erica are in the back seat, and we're talking, and I said, man, that bike, it seems like it lifts from the front. You know, everybody's putting all these stabilizers on the rear and trying to fix the swing arm and all this. And we did that. We double row bearing the swing arm. We had Works performance shocks. We had a true track stabilizer on it. And we even put Race Tech, the valve emulators before that was a big deal in the forks. We had everything dialed in. We had that thing on scales. We balanced it like you would a race car, And sure enough, the dang thing still wobbled. At 125, the thing starts lifting. And we figured out that putting pressure on the front end was the trick, because that fairing's catching all the air and it's lifting, and inevitably the front of the frame's lifting up and the thing starts wobbling. We designed the windshield, and we went to Myrtle Beach, and we were selling T-shirts and fenders. And it was kind of a weird deal because a guy comes up and he says, "Hey, isn't that hard to ride?" He says to Laura, and she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "But my husband designed this thing, and it's pretty cool. It actually holds the front end down." And he goes, "What?" And he said, "It's a windshield." And he said, "Well, my buddy builds NASCAR Truck Series trucks. You should call him sometime." We called him up and went down there to visit him. He said, "You know what? You got a great story. Let me make a couple calls." He cleared his schedule and took us to the wind tunnel in Charlotte, or in Mooresville, North Carolina, A2 wind tunnel, and it was unbelievable. That was the game changer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those guys took us through the whole thing. I said, "You know what, guys? I cannot afford this. I appreciate your time." And he goes, finally the guy told me, he goes, you just need to shut up. I said, "What?" He goes, "You need to be quiet." He said, "We're going to make sure that she's safe. We can help you."
Right on.
And all of a sudden his partner came over from the A1 wind tunnel, which is one they run all NASCAR cars at only, and they do it all the time. The guy comes over and he goes, "Nice to meet you. I heard you got a hell of a story." He said, "We're going to help you." He told me he'd say. He goes, "Come here once." He opens the door to this back room, and there's probably 10, 15 motorcycles in there. He goes, "That's my staff. That's where we park our bikes.
Right
we all
on.
ride." And I was like,
Nice.
How cool is this? And so on the way home, we the gas card wouldn't work. I'm running out of fuel. I'm like, it's over. The game's over. Like, I put everything I could into the Bonneville thing. I put everything I could into the Discovery thing, and the dream had ended. We were out of money. And I made one phone call down to Gastonia, North Carolina. And if any of you are longtime motorcycle fans, you know who Click Baldwin is.
Yeah.
And I called Click, and he said, "Man, Maury and I are just getting ready to go watch the shuttle take off tomorrow, Brian." I said, "Oh, that's cool." So they were going to ride down to Florida. He says, "What's up, kid? You sound terrible." I said, "Well, I can't do this." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I'm broke, and I'm about 75 miles from Gastonia, and I'm supposed to head north." And I said, I'm broke. And he's like, "Well, just you got enough gas to get her?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You come to my house." So I went down there, took me into his Taj Mahal of a dealership, which was a converted Kmart. It was so big, right? And he's like, "My wife would kill me for letting you stay here because there ain't even no clean sheets on that bed, but it's okay." And he starts laughing. He goes, "We're going to go to dinner." We go to dinner, and he said, "You know what? We need more good guys like you in this industry." He goes, "You don't quit on me, okay?"
Right
I said, "Well,
on.
Click, I'm out." I said, "I want to sell you the 5 fenders I have in the trailer." And he said, No, you keep those fenders. You stop in the dealers all the way back to South Dakota. Here's $500. He gave me the money. The next morning, I swiped my gas card just, like anyone would. What the hell, if it works? I mean, you might win, right? And sure enough, the gas card worked. It worked 2 or 3 more times. When I got home, I still had that $500 in my pocket. I have no idea, by the grace of God, what happened. I was able to click back his money, and we made it. The guys from the wind tunnel sent me an email, and they had put together a 6-month payment plan, and we would send them money every month. And at the end of 6 months, we went to North Carolina and took the girls along, and they showed us how to do it. The guy's like, "No wonder you can't make this thing work." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "This bike pushes as much air as a NASCAR Truck Series truck." And he goes, watch this. And he showed us on the wind tunnel and on the screen, the stock windshield had 30 pounds of lift. Our windshield had 15 pounds of downforce. He goes, you just changed the thing 45 counts. You made that bike safer for everybody who owns one. He goes, you better call your patent attorney, kid. And we did.
Nice. That's awesome. That's such a great story.
That's my life. I mean, I feel very, very blessed to be in the industry. I feel very blessed to have had people who have come alongside me, people that have worked at Klockwerks, been on our team, and just really, I mean, they've made it. I mean, they did it. No one wins the Super Bowl without the right team. The best golfer has an incredible caddy. You do not do it by yourself.
For sure. Well, and I can tell, and I think Chris and Heather attest to this as well. You know how to have a good time. I think I was just thinking back to the Quail and us sitting at that table with you and she wasn't your fiance yet, and Yaffe, and just we definitely laughed harder than anybody there, for sure. We had more fun than anybody.
I looked at that picture the other day. You're right. That was a great time.
That was a good time. And there's a bunch of those, and it's not always that, it's not always easy, it's not always, but it's kind of a testament to, you're just talking about exactly what people need to hear these days. Sometimes you just got to keep moving forward, putting one foot in front of the other, and then you can have those great times.
Well, and I think and when you talk about that, Ken, I think the thing that made the difference for Klockwerks was we were the little guy in South Dakota, and I got a chance. Tom Chapman called me out of the blue and introduced himself and said, hey, I work with Bassani Exhaust, and I want to send you a pipe to put on that bike you just had on the cover of Hot Bike. This is like 1997. And I'm like, that's the only bike I've ever had on the cover of Hot Bike. Why the hell would you want to send me anything? That was a lot of win. I'm like, I'll never have that happen again,
Sure.
And he was like, no, he's like, I'd like you to put that pipe on there. And would you ever consider bringing that bike to Cincinnati? Well, of course I would. I go to Cincinnati anyway. He's like, well, I'll pay your fuel bill, right? So we go to Cincinnati and we get there, and here's a picture of that bike up on the Bassani banner over their booth. And I'm like, dude, just won the Super Bowl, this is awesome. And it's such a big deal. And yet we were doing stuff like that and helping people out, and not, if they gave us some gas money, we were good. We were going to go anyway. And so those kind of things, whether it was, helping somebody out, helping them tear their booth down, hauling a bike somewhere for them. They needed to fit a part to a bike. You take a picture for them, and all that stuff you did free gratis because you just wanted to be part of this industry. You just wanted to be hanging out with those guys. And we did that so much that when we came to Cincinnati with that windshield, we didn't have a plan. We walked around the place, and I don't remember, we had 25 windshields, I think, and we started putting them on people's bikes. We didn't even have our own booth. And so all of a sudden everybody goes, what's the deal with that windshield? Hey, where'd you get that windshield? Does that thing really work? They're like, I don't know. I just put it on. Well, Cincinnati was always about 2 weeks before Daytona. When we got to Daytona, it was insane. How many people came up and said, that really works? That's crazy. That thing's unbelievable. And, it was everybody from the Nesses to the Covingtons to, Jay Allen to people from S&S who had helped us with the motor in the biker build-off. And they were like, this works, Brian. It really works, And it was so fun because, suddenly that family that had watched you kind of grow up and watched you come along and watched you build bikes and watched you struggle are the same people that said, you know what, it's time for you to come up to the next rung of the ladder. And they just pulled you so fast. And we grew 650% that first year that we came out of the windshield. It almost killed us. It damn near broke our company.
I bet.
So the thing he's talking about, Ken, is like in the movie Goodfellas when Henry gets pinched for the first time. And they all meet him outside the courthouse, and they're like, "Hey!"
Exactly. Exactly.
That's funny.
But that's the thing is, I mean, there's been so many people, that have come through the Klockwerks that are still, doing things in the industry, or they're doing things in our community. And for that, I'm just super thankful. Like I said, I mean, if we wouldn't have had the industry help us and come alongside of us, and the reason they did it is because we were doing stuff for them without asking for anything in return. We just wanted to do it because we wanted to be there. I think the more times you can help somebody when you help somebody with disregard for anything, we just talked about that today. Sometimes it's easier to stop alongside the road and help a total stranger fix their motorcycle or pick them up and take them to the next town so they can get it repaired than it is to help the guy who has a shop in your same town. Because you're like, well, he's my competition. Like, I can't help him. No, but you can help some guy you don't even know, right? And you're helping that guy because you're not expecting anything. Yep. Well, you shouldn't expect anything from anybody. And if you go about life like that and just give of yourself, sure, there's going to be times you're going to get taken advantage of. There's going to be times somebody copies your product or does the same thing you're doing. Arlen Ness told me, I don't even know how long ago this was, like probably 20 years ago. He said, Brian, you build the bikes that you build. Just put your blinders on and go for it. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. That was probably the best advice I ever got.
All right.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He's one of my heroes because, like, I always say, Arlen Ness and Donnie Smith are the two guys that I try to model myself after. I'm never going to build as cool of bikes as Arlen Ness. I mean, he built some crazy stuff that was super controversial, and maybe some people hated it and maybe they loved it. And Donnie Smith, he just builds a solid bike. I mean, if you don't like Donnie Smith, you got a problem, because at the end of the day, they're just good guys, and they will always stop. They'll always take a picture, always talk to a kid. They'll always answer your dumb question. And it's unbelievable. I mean, it's such a cool deal. One of the best stories I probably have about Arlen Ness was after the biker build off, I ran into him and Corey, and they had the big semi still in Sturgis. And I walked up there, and they're like, hey, Brian, what's going on? And Arlen waves me in. And so I walked up in the semi, and people were out there selling stuff. And as we're talking, this young kid's walking back and forth out there. He's got a camera around his neck. And I said, Arlen, I think this kid wants a picture. And Corey looked at him and said, Dad, no, come on. We got to get going. We're going to be late for our flight. And when he said that, Arlen looked at him, and it was truly a dad looking at his son. And he said to him at that moment, he goes, Corey, no, let's go take a picture with that young man. And they stepped out of the trailer, and Corey absolutely knew, Dad has spoken. We're not arguing this. They walked out and go up to the young kid, and the kid goes, hey, Brian, can you be in the photo? And Arlen turned around and goes, oh, he didn't really want my picture. He wanted your picture. And I just thought, I don't know that moment will ever happen for me again, but that's one of the things that I always model myself after, because Arlen always answered my questions. Donnie Smith, I hauled my first frame to him off an FXR in the back of my mom's Monte Carlo because it had a big trunk. Walked in there, and here's Rob Rail, and if anybody's ever met Rob, Donnie's metal guy, he's a big dude, right? And I mean, I was freaked out. I'm like, oh, God, this guy's going to break me in half. And I didn't know rake from a hole in my head. I was asking questions. I'm like, here's kind of what I want. Donnie's like, that's a good idea. I'm going to use that idea. And here's what I think you should do with his rear fender struts. I'm doing this for one of the Hells Angels. I'm doing his bike and doing another friend's bike. And here's my idea for that. And I'm like, perfect. So I'm one of 3 guys who has that on their bike. I'm in, And he didn't have to do that. He didn't know me from anybody, And now here I am, and we celebrated 40 years of the hamsters. I remember being in Laughlin, Nevada, and riding up one of the bikes I built on a nest frame down the road, and all of a sudden a guy's yelling at me off the curb. It's like, Brian, hey, Brian. And I looked over, and it's Donnie Smith. I'm like, do you guys realize Donnie Smith just yelled at us? Like, that's awesome. I saw Donnie in the bar later, and he goes, hey, he said, would you ever want to be a hamster? He said, some of the guys are interested in your bikes and really interested in what you're doing. And I said, man, would you want to graduate from law school? Hell yeah, I want to be a hamster. That'd be awesome, you know? And I would always go to the bars and watch their bikes and look at what they're doing, because I wanted to see how they put that bracket on or how they built this. And that was kind of like the best bike show that always traveled from bar to bar. And it was very fun for me and very cool experience to even be able to do that, you know?
Right. That's awesome. Well, I think we should probably wrap it up. We're about 15 minutes out from calling this a night. We got a little more news to go through, but we really appreciate you having you on, Brian. It's always voice and you know that background on how you got into the industry and just those stories, you know, are, you know, truly inspirational. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I think that, you know, what you and Chris are doing for the industry and just sharing this information and keeping alive the dream that is choppers for everybody. We all still love it. I don't care how many baggers I build. I get that magazine, I rip off the plastic, and I'm like, damn, these guys are building the cool stuff, and I got to make windshields.
Oh, come on! I took that windshield. What was I up to 240,000 miles on that bike with that windshield. Raced it in the Hoka race. I fought wars with that windshield.
I hear you, but then when I remember when I saw your Sportster chopper, I was like, oh, Chris, this is so cool, you know?
Because that's what it's all about. It's all of that together, man, and a dirt bike and a flat track bike and a little bobber, and, man.
We need a bigger garage.
Right? It's awesome. It's awesome.
True statement, Heather.
Well, Brian, man, listen, thank you guys. Not just for tonight.
So much.
Thank you so much for, I mean, Ken, I don't know if you know this or not, but in the very beginning when Cycle Source hit the national newsstand, Brian and his company were one of the people that, like, they really just reached down and helped us out, helped us stabilize. And, you know, his whole family and all of his people were always just so good to us and helped us along. I appreciate that more than I'll ever be able to tell you.
Well, we were just lucky that, you know, Laura and I and Dan Cheeseman and Joe Milkey and Tim Wagner, that we were all in a place to even come along and hang out with you, man. So we appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir.
And Ken's always the Mr. Behind-the-scenes guy I just at events with. It's awesome.
Well, make sure you guys go check them out. You guys obviously have the full complement of social media and the website. Where can people find more information about you and your products?
You can check it all out at getklocked.com, and, of course, follow us on Instagram at Klockwerks.
Right on, man.
Awesome.
Keep an eye on our Klockwerks stories on Instagram. Carly has taken over, and it will be funny.
That's cool. That's cool. We got to get her on next. I haven't talked to her in a long time. We need to get her on for an interview.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
All right,
have a good
buddy.
night.
Right on.
Later
Thanks,
on.
Brian.
He's the greatest. I forgot how much I like some of his motorcycles, dude. Like, some of his motorcycles were my absolute favorite custom pieces of all time.
There's some good ones for sure.
All right.
Definitely. I love that Root Buell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that actually showed up at our show in Sturgis this year.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool bike. I love that bike.
I had no clue where it had even gotten off to, but, you know, it rolled around the corner. We were like, yeah, dude, that's motorcycle history.
I think one of the hamsters brought it in, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
I believe.
So we got a little bit of more news to race through before we let you guys go. Ken was in the middle of talking about the cake.
Yep.
Okay.
You can just show that video.
Yeah,
I kind of talked about it already, but if you want to show, I don't even know if you want to put the volume on or not, but
yeah, it's there.
You can show it. It's kind of cool.
Okay, so we're here at the cake test track, which is in progress. It's being developed at all times. So when you started developing designing the track, what was your, direction and perspective?
I wanted to create something that you can basically put in the center of Stockholm city, and something that anyone can have fun on.
It's also a perfect indoor thing. I mean, if you get to know warehouse or whatever, there's no pollution, there are no fumes, there's no sound. I mean, you're not really disturbing anybody.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Cool. Yeah, it is cool.
Now, we talked about this off the air before we came on, and dude, I think this is a killer idea.
Yeah, it's super fun. I mean, that's the piece of it, right?
Well, and
it's like
and
it brings it back to like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. And for one big reason I can think of, man, in the Northeast especially, a lot of our guys that do motocross racing and outdoor motocross and stuff, they have a hard time keeping up their practice schedule throughout the winter months. And there are a couple indoor facilities, but just like they said in that commercial, the indoor facilities are a pain in the ass because of management of the weather and the fumes and everything else. I could see something like this being a pretty good, not direct apples to apples practice environment with these things, but I could see this being, for a lot of motocross guys, being a pretty good way to keep up their practice routine.
For sure. I could also see it really fun, like on instead of mini bike racing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, I want to find a way that we can get sponsored with some of that. That's awesome. So okay.
Wait a minute, real quick, Brian. I want to go back to the Rubule. He just posted that Robbie Pastor had him build that bike in 2003.
Wow.
And he's owned it since.
Wow.
He said he brings it out every year in Sturgis. He says, beware, it's quick.
That's nice. Nice. That's awesome.
So all you Indian nuts that have been waiting for Indian
put it up.
Indian release information, here it comes. I'm rolling the tape.
Everybody be watching our feed. We will on October 1st be getting we've got some pre-information out. So I can't talk about it yet, but October 1st, look for it on the CycleSource media feed. We'll have a video and kind of a description and price points and when they're going to come out and all that stuff.
Ken, did you get to ride one when you went on your
You will not
your
be
lawn?
disappointed. No.
No. Oh, dude.
No.
So
no, I'm thinking it's probably going to be Daytona would be my guess.
Yeah.
Is when we'll ride them. Yep.
People are coming out of their skins over this bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because the original drawings that they had or that got leaked are very different than this bike. Not very different, but different than this bike. I can't say anything else. I almost started talking about it. No, but they're cool. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited to be able to announce it right here.
So like at 12:59, at 11:59, can we get it ready to post on October 1st?
Oh yeah. It'll go up right when the embargo is over. So.
Okay. So at exactly midnight, it'll go up.
Yeah. No, I don't think I think it's in the middle of the day. I don't know. I'll look and find out.
The other 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Ken, Brian Klock is calling you a liar.
About what?
He said you wrote it, Ken. I know you did.
Oh, no, I didn't. I wish I did. That'd been awesome. I would totally tell you if I did. No, I can't wait to ride that thing.
So let's go.
Can't say anymore. Let's move on to something else before I say something
Ken
I'm
blows
not
his moratorium. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
I know, and gets us all in trouble.
Trouble in Austin. This reported by San Antonio's News 4. Largest motorcycle rally in Texas may be moving from Austin.
You know, she was just on. Ashley Dupree was watching us earlier. I wish she was still here.
So a lot of you guys are, have your favorite rallies. We hear and see a lot of you making the pilgrimage to the ROT, the Republic of Texas rally. Apparently has, in negotiations here, a new proposed contract requires rally to pay significantly more. So not by their choice that they might be moving, but seems like the
and
Travis
you never
County
know
commissioners.
with these sorts of media things, like, hey, are they just putting this out there to try to pressure the people to make them pay less or whatever? Like, who knows? Who knows, man? But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. So good luck to the ROT people. We'll see what happens. We'll keep you guys posted. Sure. Hate to see another good rally get dumped for local greed, if that's what it comes down to. Hopefully it's not. Industry Week this week has reported that Harley Davidson actually winning in Europe without a trade war. The company almost doubled its market share in Germany in the past decade, 6.4 in 2017 from 3.3 in 2006. And they paid somebody to write this and use Germany over a 10-year period and Trump in the same article. That's awesome. So, moving on.
Who knows what that? Yeah, who knows what that means? I mean, right? Numbers are numbers. Like, I don't know, whatever.
No, I beg to understand the relevancy. Let's go to something that's fun from the Capital Journal.
Okay, let's do it.
It's time to congratulate your favorite cannonballer. 1914 Harley this year wins motorcycle cannonball days after passing through Pierre. The reason that's relevant is it's the Capital Journal. So the winner, Dean, I'm never pronouncing that last name. Help me out, Heather.
I can't see it.
Well, you
give us a spelling.
You have the press. You have the press report too.
Yeah, but not in front of me.
I'll say Borgione. Is that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds Italian. Borgione.
Borgione. Ciao.
Yeah. California winery owner.
Oh, no kidding. So anyway, a lot of our friends, including Doug Wothke. Doug got a little perfect ride deal, didn't he? Finally finished. Got his perfect ride.
So did Jody Perowitz.
Jesus.
Jody Perowitz, yeah.
Are you stroking out on me, Blondie?
Yes.
But
maybe
it's been a long day.
An amazing thing. If you guys are not hip to the motorcycle cannonball, I can't believe that you would be watching this show because we talk about it so much. But an amazing thing in the pictures that'll come out of this from Michael Lichter and the other photographers and videographers, it's going to be something to watch for the next 6 months.
You should follow his Instagram. He's got some crazy posts of the amount of miles he did, and Harley like hooked him up with a bike and modified it for him. I mean, he rode that whole thing basically sitting backwards.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
That must be how Michael likes to ride.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? At this point, that's how Michael likes to ride. He also has a side gig as a test pilot for fixtures that go into receiver hitches. He was the one that the chair that he has made for the receiver hitch of the back of trucks, and you've never seen him do that?
Oh, that seems like a terrible idea.
Oh yeah. He had a chair with a 5-point harness that they would slide into the back of a receiver hitch of a truck.
Oh, I would do that.
Yeah, dude.
I would totally do that.
He actually fell out of it at one point, so I was making a light joke about it, but luckily he didn't get hurt real bad.
I would do it.
So coming up for us, we have, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the In Motion show is coming up in Galveston again for us this year during the Lone Star Rally 2018. Some of the industry's top builders have been invited to compete for $10,000, but all the motorcycles have to run, because building a motorcycle that doesn't run for a show is ridiculous, and there's no prize money for that because it's dumb.
Oh, boo, 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 boo.
Yeah, we got a lot of other good stuff too. But like I said, this actual show that I'm at right now, Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, Progressive Motorcycles has brought us in to run the Greasing Gears Garage Lounge. We're doing bike games. We're doing a bike show. Bike games tomorrow. Bike show on Saturday, but throughout the weekend I'm going to be here doing some live painting, and we're playing new episodes for the new format of Greasing Gears Garage. So please come and hang out with us. We're at the stadium, the Bohm Stadium, and you'll see the big giant Progressive tent where we're at. And if they can find any in the attic, maybe somebody can dig you up a Pat bear or two. Pat, come here. Where's Pat? Come here. I gotta. You guys got to say hi to Pat.
I just found my Pat bear today.
Did you find your Pat bear? What?
I did. I sent him a picture of it earlier.
What the hell is going on? Why is mine backwards and yours isn't?
I don't know. There's Pat. Oh, Pat.
Why is
headbutt?
See, I told you that's why he was giving you compliments earlier.
Yours isn't backwards.
Tongue.
I know. Why is mine backwards?
Yours isn't backwards. Not on our screen.
Oh, weird. Is yours backwards on your screen?
No, not on my screen either.
What the hell's going
It's
on?
getting out of control.
All right, so I wanted everybody to say hi to Pat because he's been busting his ass out on the road with me, man. We've had a hell of a week, and like Heather said, we don't have the benefit of proper guidance, so it's been kind of rough out here.
I need my medicine. I have to go to bed. I'm done with you all.
Okay,
Medicine.
one more time, I want to tell everybody to help propagate the Shop Talk program. We need you to share Shop Talk on your page and help us poor old journalists get along in this new, modern, fancy millennial world.
Yeah.
We're having anti-millennial talks all week this week. Every place we went. I know. It's just...
Don't do it.
Okay.
My little sister's a millennial. Hey, one little plug, though. You guys have a produced review of the Indian Chieftain, 2019 Indian Chieftain, that'll be going up on YouTube sometime soon.
Tomorrow.
It's a kind of a cool video, some riding stuff, some imagery. I do a little voiceover, kind of talk about my initial review, kind of overview more than anything of the bike. So go check it out.
So just a second ago, you said the equivalent of some of my best friends are millennials.
Who did?
You did. I said something about millennials. You go, hey, my little sister's a millennial, and I was
Yeah, she is.
Some of my best friends are millennials.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Like I've got lots of friends. Yeah, no,
All right.
they're not all idiots, but
Okay.
So
Good night.
Once
You're
again,
getting out of hand.
we thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us and letting us occupy your minds and your times. Until next week, when we can bring you another episode of the best thing we can think of doing with 120 minutes. I'm Chris.
and I'm Ken. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Heather.
Bye, Felicia. Everybody say that. That's our new sign up. Bye, Felicia.
No.
Bye,
Have you
Felicia.
been drinking?
Bye, Felicia.
No. Oh, I wish I had the button.